Hey everybody, welcome back to Bonsai by the Sea. Well, as promised, I'm going to give you a tour of the basement. It is January 15th, at least January's half over. We're back into the freezing rain scenario today. We did have a couple of days where it was in the 50s again, and it looks like Monday, Tuesday is going to warm right back up into the 40s, so we can't complain. So let's talk about this basement a little bit. It's not the kind of basement that you have a leather couch in and you go down and you watch the Super Bowl in. This house is 120 years old, and when we bought it, we actually never went inside of it. We sent some friends over to look at it, and they told us there was 2 feet of water in the basement, and it was a dog's breakfast. That's just a Canadian way of saying it was all bad. So of course we thought, hey, it's got a good water supply for growing food. So that was in December, and we bought it, and we couldn't come look at it until May. So we had all that time to wonder what it was like, and it was all bad. But I had a lot of good skills, and we basically just fixed it room by room. But this basement originally was just a crawl space. They used granite boulders for for basements here in the old houses. And sometime in the 60s, the whole house was jacked up, and about a 2 foot concrete slab was poured on top of the granite boulders to make it so you could actually walk around in the basement. So it's a good place to keep plants because it's just a gravel floor and I can water and not worry about it ruining anything. So I did some I did some counting. So I'll give you an idea of what I've got in the basement. I've got 75 lemons, and those were all lemon trees that were started about a year ago. Some of them are 2 years old, but most of them are about 1 year old. 45 blueberry cuttings, 25 honeysuckle, 75 cercissus, 30 fig cuttings, 5 rosemary, and 15 ficus benjamin cuttings. That gets us up to 270. The mini jade or portulacaria, I've got 64 cuttings. Boxwood, 14 cuttings. Cotoneaster, 25. Hibiscus, 7. Chinese juniper, 37. Mulberries, 8. Large jade, 10. And other plants, 20. So that gets us up in the 455 range. But it's probably closer to around 500 with miscellaneous stuff. So it does have good access from the house. So right here you can see how the slab was poured on top of the granite boulders. So on this shelf here, I have a lot of cotoneasters. A lot of them will be going into bonsai pots. When they get long like this, they're really good for wiring, and they're real flexible. Got quite a few Chinese junipers. These are all cuttings off my bigger ones that I made from seed. Got one birch tree in there. And that one in the back is a Japanese quince from seed. They weren't on the list. There's 4 or 5 of those down here. So we like to winter over our fuchsia hanging baskets. They do really good on low light. A lot of stuff has done really good on the low light down here. This one's a lilac cutting. Nice purple lilac. The cotoneasters have done really good on low light. And the lemon trees, this one's a 2-year-old lemon. They've done good in this situation. Just basically want to get them through the winter without getting damaged. This one's a mulberry. They're just starting to get some buds on them. So I do a lot of honeysuckle cuttings. This group here is all honeysuckles. And they've done really good on the low light situation. They're just starting to bud out. And they've been a really good product to sell at the farmer's market when they're blooming. And I'm going to be picking a few of them to go into bonsai pots. I've got one in concrete that's doing really nice out in the greenhouse. But they're very cold resistant. So on this table, I have a lot of different stuff. That's a variegated Schefflera cutting. Hibiscus, threatening to make a flower. There's lemon trees all around. That's another one of the 2-year-old lemons. Lots of fig cuttings. Figs have been a great thing to sell at the farmer's market. And the large jades in this size concrete have been a really good product. They seem to winter over fine down here. Here's one of my big jades that I take cuttings off of. A bunch more honeysuckle. These 2 boxes have wisteria that I went and dug up from a place last year. Excited about having wisteria. So here's 10 of the lemons from last year. So they're just now 1-year-olds. A lot of these will be going into bonsai pots. Here's another jade. This flat has cotoneasters cuttings in it. I do have some rabbit foot ferns here. They weren't on the list either. So the rosemary that I have down here, they tend to get stimulated to bloom down here. Make a beautiful purple flower. Got a couple of them back here. These aren't blooming, but they're developing nice. Rosemary is one of those plants that can take a little freeze, but they don't do good in it, and they can easily be killed by a freeze. They need quite a bit of protection. Here's one of the Chinese juniper cuttings. And there's lots of lemons back there, and Cotoneasters on the end. So on this table, I have a lot of sericas. There's a whole flat of serica cuttings. Can't go wrong with the serica. It's been one of the best trees for me to develop. Have worked out really well. So there's some Ficus benjamin on here. And I've got some boxwood cuttings. I'm loving the boxwood breed. They just take a long time. Just have to be patient with them. So here's 6 of the lemons that are developing nice. So up here on this bench, got a lot of different things. Here's a nice Ficus benjamin cutting. That one will be going into a pot soon. As I get into about March is when I really start potting up a lot of stuff from here. So here's a box of Schefflera's rooting. Here's one of the Chinese junipers. They've been a great thing to root. So these lights that I'm using, they pretty much stay on 24 hours a day down here. And they're LEDs. They've worked out really well. Use very little electricity. Here's a boxwood. And here's a bougainvillea. That should come out really nice this spring. It's actually starting to bloom a little bit. Ficus benjamins. I have lots of portulacaria all throughout here. They've been a great thing to sell in a plastic pot or a concrete pot. So on this side, there's one of the sericas developing nice. Lots of portulacaria here. And of course, the lemon trees are everywhere. Here's a hibiscus. They pretty much don't do much down here. A little cool for them, but they just stay alive and winter over, waiting for spring. Here's one of the blueberry cuttings. Blueberries have been really good to propagate, and I'm planning to just do more and more blueberries every year. Can't go wrong with them. Here's a cotoneaster in one of my pots. Oh, I've got a double decker over here. Ficus benjamin. So these are my large jade cuttings. And these will be going into concrete pots soon. Here's a serica doing well down here. This cotoneaster is like in the basement. They've done really well on the low light situation down here. Been really happy with the cotoneaster breed. I'll keep pursuing that plant. So on the lower deck down here, there's one of the rosemaries blooming. They get a beautiful purple flower on them. It must be the 24-hour light or something stimulating them to bloom. There's a flat of Portulacaria. Really liking the variegated Portulacaria. Real nice plants. There's 6 of the figs. So there's my biggest Chinese juniper. It gets protected here in the basement. They can freeze, but they get a lot of the juniper blush on them, turn kind of brown. Like to keep that one protected. This is where a lot of my Portulacaria cuttings have come from. Here's a Sarissa that's developing real nice. Getting a good shape. One of my pots. There's another Japanese quince. They're 2 years old now and haven't bloomed yet. I'm hoping this year they'll start to make some flowers. So this is one of the only Hinoki cuttings that I've gotten to root. They're very difficult. That one I think is going to make it. Looking good. So what else do I have down here? Okay, here's a flat of catnip. The catnip plant's really good to winter over and pot up for the spring. The blueberries do really well on low light, just sitting here and waiting for spring. These are all blueberry cuttings. This one's a pear tree from seed. And they've been really good things to start from seed. And this lower shelf has various stuff. Chinese juniper. There's a Sarissa back there. And the lemon trees. And this is actually a Trident maple cutting. I've had good success with the Trident maple cuttings. Real excited about them. So there you go. Everyone needs a hobby. I got one. I'll catch you on the next one.